Welcome to Shorty SuperCoach. How you guys going out there? And it's a bit of carnage, I must admit. We're going to run through all the pracky games, but I'll tell you what, all I'm thinking about at the moment is this lack of defensive rookies. Nothing is popping up for us, so that's a bit concerning. Could be a lengthy video. It is time-stamped. At the moment, it's just Monday afternoon, so I'm looking forward to watching Geelong and Gold Coast tonight, and I'll just do a little quick review of that one, tack it on at the end of this, so looking forward to that. But yeah, it's definitely getting right to the business end of it. And structures are starting to become crucial because there are always surprises with our rookies in general terms. But I must admit, I don't recall a line being so short on rookies this close to the start of the year as the back line is at the moment. So let's see how it all pans out. Thanks to everyone who's been subscribing and jumping on board. I had the goal at the start of the pre-season, hit 3,000, and I must admit probably 2-3 weeks ago I thought, probably just fall short, but it's been really positive anyway. But I tell you what, you guys have come for it and I absolutely love it. It's been great. So I really appreciate if you've subscribed recently or if you've been on board for a long, long time. So it's much appreciated. So we're going to dive into, take a look at all the pracky games. I've got all the tabs open just to take a look at some of the stats, but also got Dream Team Talk up there who do a few notes. No affiliation, but I just kind of like the way they go about it. So I'll just go through that. And I like to give you guys a little shorty update as well. And it was a bit of a quiet weekend, I must admit. Didn't do too much. Had to study for some assessments and that sort of thing, so it was pretty chill. Big weekend coming up this one, though. Long weekend. Could be dangerous. But yeah, about all I got for you had a bit of a hit of golf on Saturday morning. Don't know if you've ever been to Geelong or if you've got a little pitch and putt around your area. Just a little par 3 golf course, not many holes over 60 metres, that type of a setup. Me and Dad haven't had a hit of golf for a while, so we thought, let's start off just with a pretty chill little option. Just bring your chipper, bring your putter, we'll have a bit of fun. Anyway, we're going off not too bad. A little bit of rain, but hey, it's a bit of time spent with the old man. That's a win no matter what. But, we're through about 9 holes. We're about level. Not too competitive, but, it's going well. We take a bit of a break at the halfway mark. And the old man's a pretty chill guy. If I remember, he has featured on this channel before. If I remember to cut that in there, I will. But, Dad, how you going? Came for the footy. SuperCoach.
Part of me just died inside.
He's a chill guy, but if there's one thing that really pisses him off, it's his short game around the golf course. Not sure if there's many golfers around there or on this channel, but that's your little chips in and around the green and that type of thing. Anyway, we've played the 9 holes. Hole 10 comes up. Off the tee, not too bad, cool. He's just off the green, nice. We walk up, gets the little sand iron out or pitching wedge, whatever he was using, just looking for a little delicate wedge. Now, we're pretty close to the clubhouse, and he's, up until this point, he's been pretty chill, and then he hits this one, he tops the ball, and it goes about 10 centimetres. Fuck! Absolutely as loud as anything. I don't think there were too many people at the clubhouse, but I was just kind of like, how you going? Straighten up, Jeff, for God's sake. And then, because it's gone absolutely nowhere, he's just sort of walked up and then overcompensated, hit it too much with the club, and it's gone straight through the green. And that brought about a couple of choice words as well. He had 6 minutes of madness, old Jeff, because then on hole 11, it's hard to picture, but he teed it off the little pitching greens that they give you. He's fucked it, absolutely fucked it. Somehow almost hit it on the inside of the club, straight into this thick reeded grass around the lake that they have. Absolutely trash. And then we never saw the ball again. We found it, and he played a shot, and fuck knows where it went. So it was a disaster for old Jeff. Absolute disaster. But, it did make me laugh. And he'd always say to me, just on the tennis court or the golf course, just, be patient, mate. Just, keep it all together. Fuck! Absolutely fucked it. Jeff. Anyway, let's move into some footy. I try to throw in a little bit of light and shade there with the odd story every now and then. If you've got a golfing story, a golfing howler, or if you've hit a hole in one, feel free to let me know as well. But we're going all the way back to Carlton and Melbourne, and just gonna order this by disposals. But definitely Paddy Cripps. I did a video on this the other day, so if you want to check that out, it is there. He was the man. I'll touch on it for those who might have not seen that video. He was so impressive. Booted 4 goals, 30 touches, was kicking him with blokes hanging off him. Is he back? Well, yeah, he probably is. Does that mean we have to pick him? Well, no, we don't have to pick him. Look, what I will say is Sammy Walsh didn't play. It is one game. I'm the biggest Paddy Cripps fan there is going around. I am concerned about being burnt once again from Cripps. If you like what he does and you were seduced by it, I'm not going to argue it. It just depends on, you're probably going to have to chop Lachie Neale, who was not quite as impressive as this, but gave no reason as to why we should drop him. So I'm more than happy, this is just my opinion, I'm more than happy to watch Cripps return to his best, be really happy for him, and maybe I get involved throughout the season. I guess I just really want to avoid that scenario where I get seduced by one pre-season game, Walsh comes back at some certain stage in the year, and then it doesn't quite look as good. I still think, and I've said it before, I can definitely see Cripps getting back to the 110. Can he get back to those 118s, 119s that we saw in his fantastic years a few years back? I'm not too sure. He definitely is well underpriced, so you got to consider him. I'm not changing my whole sort of philosophy and team around off the back of that game, but I love him so much. So it definitely did take a bit of self-discipline. The other one was George Hewitt that really stood out. 33 touches and 7 clearances. And look, he's a star and a really consistent player, but he's more of your hard-nosed type of a guy. He's at 400k. He's going to play midfield. I probably just question his ceiling. I think I can definitely see, coming into these games, I can definitely see a high 80s average. I can probably now see an average in the 90s somewhere. I don't really see that beyond 95, but look, you might be happy with 93, you might just sit at D6 or something like that. Again, I haven't felt the need to change my structure just yet to sort of fit him in. What I will say is, what was I going to say? Gee, I had it on the tip of my tongue. What I was going to say is, the thing with Hewitt is he's not quite cheap enough to be a value selection, and I don't think he's quite good enough to be a keeper. So, sort of lands him in that really awkward position. I think he's underpriced. He represents value. I think he'll start the year particularly well. New club. They're down one gun midfielder, give him even more opportunity. But, he's. I just don't feel like he's going to be a guy you keep all year. But he's definitely more popular, way more popular than he was leading into this game. So, definitely did his chances a hell of a lot for people's teams out there. Oliver and Petrarca just did their thing. And I think Gawn, any sort of concerns about whether we went with Gawn or not, with the sort of Jackson and versus Gawn arrangement in the ruck, that were put to bed. He was great. It wasn't like he rucked the entire game, but just finds the ball really well. Like 23 touches, intercept marks. I just think he is not like he purely needs hit-outs to advantage and tackles around the stoppage to score well. He just finds it in other ways. Mitch McGovern was an interesting one, sort of seeing people, like the look of that intercept style and new position for him could be better. I'm not interested at all, in my opinion. I'm not interested at all in selecting him. He'll be better. He might fill a really good role for the Blues, but I'm not at all interested in selecting him. I think Jackson, you probably, I'd be concerned if you're looking at him in the forward line now. I would also say, Jordan Boyd could be, I don't know if he's going to be anything too special, but he might be able to provide a bit of life down back. How am I going for time here? Have I expired? 50 seconds left on the old free bandy cam. So we'll wrap this up in a second, this game. And Corey Durden, I think that was off half a game, and I think it was a calf complaint. So let's just wait and see how bad that is. But he could be a handy little option that we select in the forward line. So I'll just cut this video and then we'll be back and see if Dream Team has any other sort of options that maybe Shorty overlooked. I think I covered it off pretty well, but let's see. I just reckon it's good. You guys can get a bit of a look at, they put the centre bounce tennises in. So I just think it's good to cover her off with someone else's thoughts as well. They touch on Hewitt there. Chera doesn't interest me in Classic. Bear in mind this is Dream Team, so it's a very different approach, the way you go about it. My old mate Paddy Dow. Charlie Curnow, you probably put a line through him. I mean, look, even if he gets up for round 1, the fact that he missed, the fact that he wasn't too good the week before, honestly, I reckon there's just way better options than Charlie Curnow. Yeah, I reckon we can probably move on to the next game with that. Like I said, this will be timestamped, so hopefully that helps you get through the parts of the video that you want to see. I'll probably attach a link to my SuperCoach group. If I forget, it's in quite a lot of other videos that I've posted recently, and also a footy tipping competition if you'd like to join that as well. McRae just does his thing, always does. Dunkley, we couldn't be happy with how he's going. Same said for Lachie Neale. Look, I'll be interested to see whether he can return to his absolute blazing best of 120 style. I'm probably expecting something more in the 110 to 115, particularly with, there is so many players running through that Brisbane midfield. There's just not as much of a reliance on him, which probably 2-3 years ago at his best, or whenever he did join the Lions, he was the absolute man in there. Still underpriced, still a really good pick. Now, Adam Treloar, he's found a real nice role. 29 touches, couple of goals, just using his finishing ability and that pace, and just really seems to be in a good groove with the Doggies outfit. Now, the only knock I've ever had on Treloar was that I just don't think he can get near a full season of games. In fact, I really doubt that he can get close to it. There are always exceptions with this. You can't always tell just because a guy's been injury prone that all of a sudden he just, doesn't play every game. Nick Nat was injury prone for a long time, had a really good year last year. We see guys like Deledio, durable as hell, and then it can go to shit. So it isn't always linear. That's the only thing putting me off Treloar. But if the body concerns don't worry you, then he couldn't have been any more impressive. Caleb Daniel, I think, he's underpriced. I'm happy to bypass, but he is definitely providing a little bit of value. And look, Tim English, he looked like a bit of a beast, to be honest. I'll tell you what, I mean, we're not going to start him, but it was as imposing as I'd seen him play. I mean, again, the concern is that it's going to differ from week to week because Steph Martin is lurking. He is around. He looked pretty off and pretty rusty. But, I'll tell you what, I do think English is going to develop into that gun that we all expected at some stage. Probably not the time to pull the trigger on him. Would be very risky, but he definitely put a positive foot forward there. Jared Berry's a really interesting one. 19 touches and does a lot of inside grunt work really well with the tackles and always a solid contributor at the clearance. Hopefully Dream Team have the centre bounce attendances, but I think he attended about 11 or 12, sort of on par with Bailey and the like. You got to put in mind too that Cam Rayner didn't play this day. He was a late withdrawal. So my thoughts on Bailey is I haven't been too tempted just yet. I do think he struggles to find enough easy ball. I've got no question marks about what he does inside. So, great tackler, great contested player. I don't know if he's got the spread and speed in him that could sort of allow him to get easy possessions, but, I'm happy to be proven wrong. I know he averaged those really great numbers a couple of years back, but I haven't found myself interested in selecting him just yet. I'm not saying he won't be a good selection. He's very cheap. He's got a lot of upside. He's looking great, getting some great opportunities. But through the midfield, and I've said this all pre-season, I'm just looking to keep it real chill. I'm really just looking to go 4 premiums. We've got so many gun rookies, so many, Horne-Francis, Dacos, Ward, just all put amazing cases forward. So I don't feel the need to go scratching for a sort of awkwardly priced guy that may or may not deliver. So without sort of talking him down too much, he's just not my cup of tea, but I definitely get where people are coming from. And then I think we probably start to get a little less relevant. Kadeem Coleman, that was a pretty crucial one. Of course, injured the hammy And, there's not too many short-term hamstrings, is there? They're normally always at least 2 to 3 weeks. So that's probably going to put a line through him. I was never sort of selecting him. So you guys out there who are interested in him probably have a better idea of how severe that hamstring is. But I would suggest that the fact that he went down probably had you putting a line through him. So we'll just see, like we do, if they've got any sort of differences in there as your centre bouncers. So Berry, 10 to 11. So that gives you a good little insight there. See if they've got anyone that's worth noting that didn't sort of touch on. I just like to sort of do this. Well, there you go. There's a hammy. Just kind of like to do it just to make sure I'm not missing anyone that, you really can. I mean, Bailey, again, he was in plenty of centre bounces. And I think is going to have a really influential year. I don't know if I'm too interested in selecting him. I just think, I don't know if he's got that absolute ball-winning ability, and I still think there'll be times where he is such a dynamic forward that they choose to play him more forward. Yeah, look, again, not trying to talk him down because I think he's such a fantastic player. So exciting, massive upside. But I just think there's some better guys around him that we could potentially select. As we move on to Hawthorn and Melbourne, Hawthorn and Richmond even. and definitely probably Josh Ward and Dustin Martin, Jaden Short were the ones that really just put a massive foot forward. I think Jaden Short's very much underpriced, and I know some people referenced how dominant he was in the preseason last year. Didn't quite translate, but I think he's just the main guy out of the back line now for the Tigers. And the stats, roughly speaking, I remember doing the stats, and it might have been for last year, with Hooley, he averaged about 93, I think it was, without 105. And that's sort of stacking up. He's just getting so much ball, so many kicks, so many kick-ins. Honestly, he's tempting me very hard. Josh Ward was a standout, 29 touches. Didn't look too great in the first Pracky game, but I think everybody's just locking and loading him. He was very impressive. I think he should be in your side. And then Dustin Martin, 26 touches, looked really good. But, in classic Dusty style, doesn't tackle, hates to tackle. I do think he offers us a bit of value, but I think if you're picking him, I can definitely see why. I'm not rushing out to select him. I think he'll be a guy that we have to have in our teams at some stage of the year. Whether it's a start, we'll have to wait and see. But I think the Hawks definitely offer some interest in terms of younger guys, whether McDonald can get a go. I think Ward's definitely put his foot forward. Hugo Ralph Smith as well, definitely put his hand up. 20 touches, took the 10 marks, and looks like a really strong contributor to that backline. Look, he looked like a guy, and I saw him against the Cats. He just looked like he was a part of the back six, and it's not like he's going to dominate, but he just looked part of it. It's an easy position to just knock out a 72, then an 81, and a 68. It's hard to score a bad one when you get those easy chips, and 10 marks suggests that he was just involved. So I think he's a strong consider at about 206. I think, look, Sicily, it wasn't his best day. Still took some kick-ins from what I've gathered. But, look, I wouldn't be losing faith in him. I understand if you want to chop him. Look, I can see the merit in going Sicily down to Hewitt off the back of what we've seen. I'll probably look a little bit deeper into this game when I get a chance. But I wouldn't be throwing Sicily out just yet. But, look, he's a proven premium when fit. It's just a matter of, is he going to be a little bit rusty, a bit slow to get back to his best? That might be the question. And I can understand how some people might be, a bit immersed in maybe making the swap towards Hewitt. I wouldn't necessarily pull that trigger. I personally haven't yet, but I do get the thought behind it, particularly if, freeing up 40 or 50k can be important this time of the year. Shea Bolton was, probably not quite where you'd want him if you're looking at him. Again, I didn't watch this game. I'm interested to see if you can get a bit of a look at the centre bounce attendance. Finn McGuinness, I think, was good without being great. I don't think he locked himself into a round one spot, but he's definitely in the mix. I'm a fan of him in general. It's just, can he get that opportunity? Again, we'll just have to wait and see for the round 1 teams. Josh Gibcus as well, or however you want to say that one. He was really solid, and I think he's maybe a touch expensive to go with, but I do think that his job security looks solid. Again, it's hard to tell. A Richmond supporter would know better than me. I think he's in the mix, but I probably prefer someone like Mitch Hinge, which I'll talk about soon. And otherwise, I think all interest has sort of gone from Lynch. Denver Granger Barras, I was hopeful on seeing a bit more, but we haven't seen anything really. Let's just double check that one and see what they've got and maybe a few thoughts. Because again, sometimes it's hard to talk when you don't see the game. What do they say? With Hardigan missing from this game, the Tigers were using Rewalt, Lynch and Bolt in the forward line. Sis was required to play as a third tall, limiting his ability to sit off and take intercept marks. Well, there you go. Okay. Almost all the play in Hawthorn's backline at one point went through Sicily. And as an added bonus, Sis took a few kick-ins too. Okay, so he didn't take a stack of kick-ins. Hardwick, 5. Scrimshaw, 3. Just monitor how defensive talls. Yeah, that's a good point. So that's a good point, Might be interesting to see how many tall defenders the Hawks go with, and that might be something crucial. So, Finn McGuinness played a bit of a lockdown role, lockdown defender. Okay, that's probably not ideal. Probably thought he might have been a bit more inside. Attended some centre bounces when Liam Shields went off. Yes, I reckon he's touch and go for the round 1 spot. We'll have to wait and see on that. I feel like McDonald probably didn't really put himself forward too much. He was good without being great, I suppose. Like he looks promising. I don't know if we're going to lock him in round 1 off the back of what we've seen. Again, they're sort of just, going over a couple of points that I said there. So I think that's a really interesting game to wrap your head around. And I will be doing a bit more research on that for my own benefit around Sicily versus Hewitt in the coming days. So we move on to Port Adelaide and Adelaide. There's a bit into this one as well. Butters just locked and loaded himself if he wasn't already. I think Matt Crouch, 31 touches. He's going to be super solid. Does handball a lot, and I'm very surprised he didn't lay a tackle. Very unusual. It should be noted too that Rory Laird out for 4 to 6. So read into that whatever you would like. Should see some youngsters get more opportunity at the very least. Rosie played a really good game. Keep him up your sleeve for draft, perhaps. I think a big one here was that Josh Sin only played the second half. Has to be concerning unless it was a deliberate monitoring of minutes. But even so, that's probably concerning in itself. So I would say he's touch and go for round 1. It would seem like he's up against someone like Lockie Jones, for that sort of younger half-back type of role. I think Harry Schomburg, keep him up your sleeve for draft. I think not many people know much about him, but he's going to be a really good averager this year and could slide a bit in your draft. Otherwise, Riley O'Brien, a few people looking at him, he's going to be solid. I think he's going to fall well short of sort of top 5 ruck, but he's solid. And there's Mitch Hinge. So, the stats don't look sexy, but I actually watched quite a bit of this game. Like I said, quiet weekend, unusual quiet Saturday, so I watched quite a few of the games. 12 touches, nothing too sexy, but Seedsman's going to miss a lot of footy, and Hinge lined up consistently on a wing. Now, he's 180k, and honestly, it rests my heart rate to just sort of see someone down in that back line at a rookie sort of price that looks to be a lock for best 22. Because there's a lot of guys down there that we can't sort of say that about. Ideally, you like picking rookies that you go, he's a safe bet for the best 22. And I reckon he can score okay. That's why we love the Dacosses of the world and that type of thing. We don't have that luxury down back. Some of them can potentially score better, like maybe a Sin, but the job security seems iffy. And then there's sort of roles reversed, like a Sam DeConning. I think his job security is really good. Scoring ability, probably on the lower side of things. So I feel like Hinge is definitely a guy that I'm strongly considering at the moment. I thought he looked really solid. I think he still scored like 64, I think I saw. So that sort of shows that he kicked a goal, but, it sort of says his touches were effective and efficient, aside from one set shot that he butchered. And just below him, Josh Rochelle, he laid the 9 tackles, which was most important, and kicked the 3 goals. I don't think he's going to kick 3 goals at AFL level in a weak side all too often, but one thing that you can control is his intent and tackling ability. So he's a strong consider. Well, he's probably more than that. I think you could just about say he's a lock. So I've been sort of working and just trying to find a way to work him into my team. Look, bear in mind, he is a small forward in a weak team, so let's not get carried away about his scoring ability, but I would suggest if you can find a way to bring him into your team, then I'd definitely endorse that. Josh Saligo, it didn't seem like he pushed his case amazingly. Same with someone like Mead, and there's Josh Sin. So a few young guys that, might be touch and go there. I wonder if we get a couple of comments here. It's good. I mean, everyone sort of has their websites where you can access this stuff, but it's great to see the kick-ins, great to see the centre bounces. They sort of mentioned a few guys I'd mentioned before. I think that's pretty much... Oh, Sam Hayes, sorry. He was definitely... Yeah, so that's a good point. I was actually watching this game largely off the back of Sam Hayes. I feel like my concern coming into the week was my ruck department. I felt like I settled that by the time Gawn played well. And I ditched Bruce, and then, Hayes didn't look too well, and Hugh Dixon was, looking great and getting real good job security at West Coast. Then all of a sudden, the new problem is clearly what are we going to do with this back line? So it's very tricky, very difficult. But look, Sam Hayes, I just don't think he really did enough. What do they reckon? In the second half, when Lysett was on the bench, he took the main job. Look, I think he might be a backup, and he might be a handy backup at times, but don't know. Maybe if you've got... Yeah, look, I wouldn't say he's a must sort of pick guy, but we'll wait and see on the round 1 teams. To me, he sort of looks like a guy who wants to be the main ruck, but just isn't going to be just yet. So whether they do look for a more forward ruck to join Lysett or how that works, that will be the deciding factor. Let's take a bit of a look at Essendon and St Kilda. Again, I was sitting on the couch, kicking back, doing the odd assessment, and watching this one. Jai Caldwell, definitely played a good game. 5 tackles, 5 clearances, sort of what we anticipate he can do. I'm not interested in getting warmed up to that. I still think the Bombers bat so damn deep in the midfield, and he is a fair way down the pecking order. He's going to have some really good games throughout the year, and I think he's a really promising player. You guys would know that. I started with him last year in the forward line. Probably a lot of the discussion has been Berry versus Caldwell, and probably for the most part of the preseason, it's probably been Caldwell for me. If I had to, I would probably now say Berry, but like I said when talking about Josh, or Jared even, Jared Berry, I'm not too interested in either. Rowan Marshall showed what he can do when he is the main ruck. He dominates, gets lots of the ball, covers the ground super well. Like I've always said, if Ryder went down with an extensive injury, I would start with Marshall. That doesn't look like the case. Ryder could be touch and go for round 1, but he's going to be in the mix for the early part of the season. So that just sort of makes me go, probably not to start. Andy McGrath, let's give it 6 weeks. Let's hope he starts the season good, not great, gets defensive, dual position status, and we're going to launch him. Also worth keeping that in mind with you picking your back line. I think we're going to want Pendlebury and McGrath at some stage in the year when they do get that dual position status. So that's something to keep in mind with the new system of how SuperCoach goes about it. I'm definitely looking forward to what he can do off a half-back flank and snatching him up when we get the chance. Jack Steele, I wouldn't get too crazy into, him not exactly dominating 2 pracky games. I think just he'll dominate when it matters. I wouldn't be too concerned about that. Jordan Ridley, again, maybe not a massive possession game, but a lot of intercepts. And I remember looking, he was still doing really well on the ranking points. So he's still a really viable option. Again, sometimes just a bit like Sicily, there will be times when he has to play a slightly more accountable role, and that will affect his scoring at times. But just gets such big points per possession sometimes when he's taking those big intercept contested marks. Jay Gresham, I think we can put a line through. He's consistently starting in the forward 6, having stints in the midfield. That's great for St Kilda. not as great for us. And look, otherwise, honestly, Hunter Clark was looking really good and then went down, which is super disappointing for him. Not that I think many of us were going to go with him, but very disappointing for him and Saints fans. Nick Martin came on and had a really good impact. I just wonder if he can fit into that Bombers team. He actually looked really clean and really classy, so I'll watch with interest there. Just keep him on your watch list. And Jack Hayes as well. A lot of people out there were really excited. I thought he was all right. I thought he looked like he worked up the ground nicely and definitely competed well. He's a big lump of a lad, but I think he could be a good chance for round one by all reports, and at that price makes him a good chance for your SuperCoach side as well. Kane Baldwin as well. This is another good example of a guy that probably doesn't have massive output potential. He'll have his days, I'm sure, but potentially job security looks pretty solid. Again, we'll have to wait and see. You Bombers fans out there might know better than me. I'm sort of getting a bit of a sense of Patrick Ambrose vibes back in the day where a few years back, sort of third tall at the Bombers, did us a nice little job making some coins. So I just wonder. And if you're watching this game hoping to see something from Sam Draper, then I don't think we saw that. You know, he competed hard, does some impressive things from time to time, but it wasn't exactly the exclamation mark that we needed to sort of say, yeah, gotta pick me, this is my year to break out. Still could, but not enough evidence for us to go with him. And yeah, look, you know, probably a few other young guys just didn't really put their case forward too much there. So there's Caldwell, you know, getting a few centre bounces, which is great. But again, I'm, you know, not super interested. Yeah, there's a couple of guys that I mentioned there. Anything that I missed on? What do they think about? Yeah, there you go. Don't read anything in your premiums. Yeah, exactly. The price tag, yeah, potentially. You know, I think his main stat lines with the 8 marks, 5 tackles, but only I've been super keen on him being M1. Yeah, and look, that's the thing. I mean, honestly, it's not like it might just be a financial thing. You know, it might be, for example, you might go Petrarca instead of Steele. 2 guns, but you get 70, 80K. So it's just a horses for courses thing because honestly, normally I would say don't worry about it. But honestly, at the moment, trying to find that extra money for rookies is crucial because I think other years gone by, we've got a fair bit from our 123, 117K guys. At this stage, it doesn't seem like it. We seem to have to be shopping a little bit further up the price chart. So finding an extra 50, 60K and maybe not losing too many points at all could be really important. So just keep that in mind. Let's move on to the Giants game when they took on the Pies. Where was this, Josh Kelly? God, come on, mate. 41 of the best, and didn't do too much of that when Shorty started with him last year. That hurt, but he was fantastic again. I'm not going to be going back there due to PTSD, but he was great. So was Nick Dacos. Lock and load him. Throw away that key. He was fantastic. Tom Green looks like he's set to really make that next step. He's still awkward to start with, but could be a nice little late draft selection at some stage. Taranto was super impressive. You know, did have some forward time, kicked a couple of goals, but still found plenty of the ball. I think a few people might be reconsidering that one. I'm not one of those. I'm happy to just go with Dunkley and shop elsewhere. Pendlebury, he'll be our guy for dual position status later in the year, like I mentioned. Cornelio, massive lock. He looked fantastic. Really, really good. It's what we wanted to see, so I was stoked about that. Likewise with Crisp, just looks really solid, involved in that midfield, and I'll be interested to see his centre bounces when we look at those in a moment. There was a lot of positive things from this game, to be honest. Whitfield was another tick, you know. Didn't have a stack of ball, but just the position and the way he moved, you know, it just looked right to me. Tanner Bruin's going to be a great player one day. When he gets a chance in that midfield, he's going to be a very good player. If you were keen on Maynard, he could be missing some footy. I think we can put a line through De Goey. I think we needed to see something. Personally, if I was considering him, I probably would have wanted to see a bit more. There's a fair bit going on in that Collingwood midfield. Just get the sense that he's not quite at his best at the moment. But Brodie Grundy was great. You know, from the time that I watched it, he was dominating. Maybe didn't carry that on statistically, but Finlay McRae I was quite interested in, but you know, I've been told he might be not quite best 22. We'll have to wait and see. And then I guess the massive talking point about this game, and I probably almost entered this game expecting to chop Bruce, and as soon as Matty Flynn waltzed in for that first bounce, then I chopped him. And I know he battled hard, 12 touches and had like 6 tackles and still got a few hit-outs. I know he scored okay, but personally, I just see him as second fiddle. I don't want to start him at 204. It'd be a different story if he was 123, but it's not. So for me, again, discussing ways you can find an extra 80 to 100k, that's a pretty easy way to go about it, in my opinion. Definitely, a month ago, thought Bruce could be number one ruck. Hasn't quite turned out that way. And Lipinski owners, that would have hurt. That definitely would have hurt. I'm not sure on the extent. Hopefully it's not too bad. And Kruger as well. He was looking pretty good and then went down. So I think that, it looks like he was playing forward too, which originally when he came to the Cats, he was playing forward. Looked like he was going okay, but no, definitely didn't quite go as planned when he got knocked out. Interested to see what they say on some of these Pies young guns. If they mention a couple. They're not even going to mention old Finn McRae, but I think it's a real watch this space for Collingwood. I think they could offer some really good value players. It's just going to be a matter of wait and see. Now, guys, I'm worried about Isaac Heaney. Should I just chop him? And I know he'll play more midfield at times. There was no Papley, there was no Franklin, so consider that shorty. Okay, but it does worry me that, Papley's out for a long time, and it's hard to see Buddy playing every game. Just worries me that they're not fully committed to Heaney playing midfield, regardless of the circumstance. It sort of feels like, well, as soon as something changes with our forward six, we can just fix that with Heaney down there, which concerns me. We've always known he can still be best on ground as a forward, but we also know that his scores do suffer when he's consistently a forward. So he still played a great game. Where is he? He's not up there with the disposal, but he kicked 4, didn't he? So he kicked 4, 17, had a really good game, but just sent shivers down my spine. So I'm really keen to see how Lachie Weller goes tonight. So I guess you'll hear what I have to say on Lachie Weller in about 5 to 10 minutes when I finish this video off later tonight. Nick Blakey looks like a bit of a revelation. I've been reassured by my Sydney man, Tommy, that Jake Lloyd is still a lock. I was a little bit worried about maybe the contribution from some other young swans down back, but he says don't lose faith, stick with him. McInerney was pretty good too. I just reckon he might be a sneaky one for your draft as well. Likewise with Warner, 7 clearances. Clearly they really like him in the midfield. Not too many of your mates are going to be aware of that, so keep that under your hat for draft. And otherwise, look, Polak was actually back to some good footy, but surely we're not going there. Dill Stevens put a confident foot forward. Definitely looked a good chance for round 1 after that performance. I'll be interested to see if he can get a spot. Taron Thomas, without watching this game, I listened to a lot of it, but I was working, so he's sort of in and out of the car. From my assessment, I think Thomas owners or interested owners probably would have wanted a more emphatic performance, but you might be able to tell me otherwise. And I've touched on Heaney. Tristan Cherry is probably the big one, Did a lot of the ruck. What do we got here with hit-outs? They shared it pretty well. So, look, he turned up, at least from a Dream Team point of view. I think he did in SuperCoach as well. He's about 208. So, again, he's got to be a consider. He's also up against the guys like Brody, Ralph Smith and the like. So, starting to get a couple of options around that price range. So, yeah, definitely give us something to think about. Horn Francis was great. We all know that we're locking and loading him. Campbell and Mills, interesting options. I think both have merits, but we won't be starting them. I'd like to get them in draft. I feel like they could slightly slide. Paddy McCartan, I think we've got to start him down back. Definitely looking promising when we haven't really had too many other options. He looks really set for a key post at the Swans. And yeah, otherwise, I don't reckon there was too much. Let's see if we can just run the eye over a couple of things if I've missed anything. Do they have kick-ins? Does it say what it doesn't like a wet day? Blah blah. Yeah. Interesting. I wonder if someone could tell me the kick-ins that Mr. Lloyd had. I'd love to know. Josh Kennedy was playing a little bit off half-back. Interesting stuff. And then a little bit in the midfield. So, yeah, a bit of a change-up. Matty Roberts probably looking unlikely for best 22. But yeah, keep an eye on him. What's their take on Cherry? 16 centre bounces, hear me out, maybe, just maybe, he could be an F6. I can't believe... Wow, shit, they're really talking him up. Yeah, interesting. I'll do a little bit more research on that one. I reckon that's worth considering. You know, I'm not jumping any crazy conclusions, but definitely worth considering. And then our final game, at least for the moment, I'll take a look at Geelong and Gold Coast when I get home tonight. Didn't seem like there was huge stuff from this. I think, look, Brayshaw... I think he's a really good option. I've been a fan of him for a long time. I'm personally not going with him, but look, if you're a fan of him, if he's in your team, he did nothing to deter you on the weekend. I think Witherden's really finally going to step up and be a good option for West Coast. Not saying pick him, but I think if he's hanging around in your draft, could be hanging around late, he might be one that you can pounce on. Sarong, again, was pretty impressive. I think he's really giving you something to think about. Like I've said many times, these kind of mid-priced options in the midfield aren't exactly taking my fancy, but if they are taking yours, then 25 touches and 4 clearances, certainly would have done that. Plenty of hope as well. Luke Ryan's a bit of a point of difference. I think if he's able to get a bit loose, he racks up the marks, just racks them up. Will Brodie, look, 23 touches, laid the 8 tackles. He was great. The only thing I would say, there was no Fife, and I'm not sure where Darcy Tucker is at either. So that's just something to keep in mind. Just keep it in mind. I don't know. I want to start him. I wish we had a look at their absolute best outfit. But it does look like he's part of it. Definitely part of it. So he's definitely a guy we've got to consider. Heath Chapman, I'm starting to see a bit of hype about. He had 16 touches to half-time. Finished with 23. Really looked nice across half-back. Bit of dash. Looked composed. I can't see myself starting him. I've just got a bit of Hayden Young vibes. I really like the guy. I remember watching him last year or whenever it was when he debuted. Looked really likely, but I know we're a desperate down back, but I still want to largely keep it guns and rookies. I keep telling myself that. Don't get away from guns and rookies. Stay strong to that. I think Tom Joyce will become available for us, and I reckon he'll start round 1. So that could be really handy for us. Probably just on a midfield bench, but still really handy. Paddy Nash also put forward a nice performance. Connor West as well. He's pretty awkward at about 250k, but should get some real good opportunities at West Coast. We know the injuries that they've been hit with, particularly in the midfield. He's a guy that should get a bit of time off the back of that. Brad Hoff, I think it is. Didn't know anything about that bloke prior to listening to that game, but he actually sounded like he played okay. So I just wonder, I get the feeling he's available as a defender. I don't know. I know he played off half-back, so I just wonder. But give me a minute while Shorty's internet just kicks in. Any moment. Where are you, Hasselhoff? There he was. 117 in the midfield. Cool. That doesn't help. That doesn't help at all. And yeah, there's Nash. Otherwise, don't know if there was too much. I know O'Driscoll, didn't play, so that hurts big time. We had pretty high hopes on him down back. Hugh Dixon, again, I don't think he's going to set the world on fire with your scores. Could be just a handy R3. And Sean Darcy, look, it's not panic stations if you like him, but I wouldn't start with him now. I think you've got Gawn and Grundy looking amazing. Darcy's potentially just a touch behind the pack. It probably wasn't an ideal game style the way it panned out for Ruckman. Both Nick Nat and Darcy probably didn't have their greatest days. It just didn't seem to suit Ruckman from what I read. The stoppage count wasn't, it just wasn't that sort of game. But, and yeah, look, Rioli didn't set the world on fire. I know he spent a bit of time in the centre bounce, which might, give some people some confidence. But again, I've sort of mentioned he's not really my cup of tea. And yeah, they sort of reiterate a bit of Joyce. I'll be interested to see what they have to say on Brodie. Slight risk with Fife and Tucker, both come back in the midfield. Yeah, so that's something worth considering. Chapman, cross half-back, intercept marking, yeah. And wouldn't read too much in the Sean Darcy stuff, but equally, I'd be a little nervous that he just starts the season a touch slow. So we'll have to wait and see. But look, I'm going to wrap it up for this portion of the video. Don't click off because I'll end this, I'll edit this, and then later tonight, I'll add on Gold Coast and Geelong. So, yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed so far, and I'll wind it up again in about 10 minutes. G'day, guys. Welcome back. I've been over to the old man's in the man cave, watched the Cats game, which was a pretty atrocious performance, actually. I know it's only a practice game, but if that was a representation of what we've been working on over the pre-season, I'm a touch concerned because not too much seemed to change, just a lot of the same old, slow old blokes. But anyway, we're here to talk about SuperCoach and not rage about the Cats. Honestly, I was really keen to take a look at Weller tonight and, put a line straight through him. I was pretty optimistic and came into this game tonight thinking, potential premium option. Without watching him the other week, looked like he had a really nice halfback role. And, it just didn't seem like that. He was handy at times, but just wasn't the go-to guy like I kind of pictured. So I'll tinker around with the side and rule him out. Sometimes you forget just how good Miller does absolutely everything. I think sometimes I sell him a bit short. But, look, Raul was definitely the standout. 27 touches, 7 tackles, 8 clearances. Look, it's not a question of is he going to be a good pick. It's a question of structure. Do you want to go that way in your midfield? Because I still think that while he'll probably average great numbers, I don't think we're keeping the guy all year. So as good as he might be, and probably about as good a contribution as you're going to get from anyone around the 340k mark, like Genuine could average 3 figures, I still think you're going to use a trade on him at some stage in the year. So it's more of a structure question, how you want to line up your side as opposed to whether he's a good pick or not, because he's just such a talent. Couldn't say I found too much from the Cats. I mentioned Weller. De Koning was definitely really, really good. Actually found more of the ball than I probably anticipate him doing. Really solid. He has his moments where he makes mistakes. He's a bit slow sometimes, but he'll be in that Cats round 1 team. Cooper Stevens was a guy that got good opportunity. I'm still really confident in what he can be. If I was picking the team, I would have him in that midfield. I think Geelong needs a guy like him. Yeah, he's not the finished product right now, but so much more upside than Selwood and Parfitt and, a lot of other guys that they roll through there. So, but knowing Chris Scott, he probably won't play. So we'll see how we go. And it was a bad day for the Cats. He had some shaky moments, but I reckon there's a lot to like about him. And look, honestly, I don't think there was too much out. Sorry, Jared Witts, my mistake. If you were looking to see how he went, you would have been mixed emotions, I'd imagine. He had 7 touches, didn't get a lot of the ball, but I think it was about 15 hit-outs to advantage. So, honestly, it was about 54% time on ground. So, clearly he's still building up to his full fitness. He smashed Stanley tonight, which, is something that Reece can be pretty hot and cold. I wouldn't have thought Witts' performance was anything to make you go, I've got to go with him. I can rely on him as my R2. It was good. It was solid. And maybe if you've got him, maybe that was enough because he still scored well from half a game. But I would suggest that the way Grundy's been going, the way Gawn's been going, I'd suggest probably not. So, I'm going to wrap it up there because it's like 20 to 11 and I was, hoping to get this one out by about 11 o'clock. I've already done most of the editing for it. So, I want to try and get this one out ASAP because I know, people are really interested to hear about how the Pracky games went, and it's just fever pitch right now. So much to sort of think about, particularly with these rookies. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I appreciate the support. It's really business end of things. Looking forward to really honing in on some final changes to the team. And while we don't have any footy over the next, few days, a bit of a break from footy till round 1, there'll still be plenty of content coming your way. So thanks again, and I'll chat to you soon. Cheers.